Good Lord, look at all this stuff. What is my project coming up? Well, I got lots of things to do, but the first thing I want to do, and that's what this episode in these videos, this video series is going to be about, is installing this faucet. This faucet and then the little soap dispenser handle on there. I figured I might as well get those things out of the way. Seems as though we just replaced the countertops and we're doing the condo renovation. We replaced the sink unit, and because we don't have anything down below, why not go ahead and install the sink faucet first? That way the garbage disposal isn't in my way, the extension piece coming down here for the drain line isn't in my way, the P-trap's not in my way, that's not in my way, the drain and all that. Okay, so step by step, you want to do things properly in the right order to give you enough room down there, right? So that's what my project is going to be today, is to install this faucet. Have I installed very many of these faucets before? Maybe 10, maybe up to 15 in all of my life over the years. The last one I installed was probably, I don't know, 6 years ago? 5 years ago. So of course I do not install these very often, but whenever I get them done, they look just like a professional's installed them. Okay? And so that tells you, do you have to be a plumber in order to do this? No, you don't. You've just got to take the right steps and all that kind of stuff. If you want to watch that, stick around. Now, I should have looked at this really close before I went to the store to get ready to install this. Okay, because once I started looking at the directions and stuff, I noticed, okay, when I put this down, here's the fitting for the red, which is going to be for the hot water line. Here's for the cold water line. But I should have noticed that, because these lines should be long enough, and they're designed to be long enough to hook up to your water supplies, okay? Because they've already got this fitting on the end. It's a 3/8 fitting, and when you look underneath your sink, after I took everything else off, you see here's my one for the cold water, and this is for the hot water. This one is for the hot water too, right here. That just happens to be for the dishwasher. So when the dishwasher comes, I'll install to that one, because there's a separate shut off. See, there's a T right there that comes out. That was kind of slick how he did that. And then I'll hook up the sink faucet to that one, okay, for the hot water. I believe we'll just have to see. I mean, I could do it either way. I could put the sink on that one, and the dishwasher on that one, or vice versa. But see, the last sink, they had the connections here, and one happened to be a 20-inch, and one happened to be a 16-inch. And you can get these in different sizes. You can get 12-inch, 16-inch, and 20-inch. And you get the right ones, and usually for standard sinks, this fitting is going to be a little bit bigger. I think it's a 1/2 inch, and then the end is going to be 3/8. See, but on this sink here, not the case. This sink faucet, not the case, right? Because nowadays everything is all inclusive. Here you've got the line. Most faucets, that it just stops right in here, and it's got female threads on there, and then you would take one of these with the male threads, or the female threads. Sorry, the sink faucet would have male threads. Okay, so then you would hook it up with that, but these go directly to the water supplies. That's kind of slick. Yeah, so, you know, whenever you get ready to do something, look at their directions. This is really not the directions. Here's maintenance and care, and it kind of tells you how everything is going to go. But the direction sheet is actually right here. See? This is step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and I found it step 5, 6, 7. Good grief! I found. See, they give you 2 different options. They give you an option to install this just by itself in one hole. But if you have a 3-hole sink and you've got to cover up your other 2 holes, then they give you this. They give you a plate. You see, here's a plate that snaps on there, and then you've only got 1 hole coming out, but yet you're covering up 3 holes. Do you see what I mean? Or if you don't want to use this, you can just do it with one hole, and that's all I'm going to do because I only got 1 hole. This one is for the sink faucet. That's for the soap dispenser. And the funny thing is you may say, "Hey Joe, what the heck? You forgot a hole for the air gap for the dishwasher when the dishwasher goes in." Well, did you know that nowadays you don't necessarily have to have an air gap on top of the counter? And obviously if you have a 4-hole sink, you got a 4-hole sink, yes, you would put the faucet in and this would cover up the other 2 holes, and then you would have, you'd have one for your soap dispenser, and that's it. You wouldn't have one, or you do without your soap dispenser, and you can put your air gap if you have an existing air gap. But you don't necessarily have to do that anymore. I didn't really know that until they got ready to install this counter. They said if you don't want the hole, we don't have to drill a hole. It's just when you hook up your drain to your dishwasher, instead of hooking it directly up to an air gap, you would hook it up directly to a garbage disposal. You would hook it up directly to that, but you would continue your hose up in here and you'd run it up. It has to go up higher than your outlet. So wherever your outlet is, the pipe has to go up higher than that. So you would loop it up high, way back in here, and just loop it up, and maybe 2 different loops or whatever, and then come back down and hook it up to your garbage disposal. And that would cause a high loop area to where you'll have some air, as your water's draining out of your dishwasher. That would supplant for your, if that's such a word, would be in lieu of an air gap on top of the counter, because you don't want to just run your drain down low for your dishwasher and then run it up to your garbage disposal, because then your dishwasher is going to drain slow and it's going to go gluck 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 like that, because it doesn't have any air in the line. When you put that pipe up high and loop it up underneath the sink, and then I'll loop it and probably zip tie it to the sink faucet pipes coming down or something, or clamp or what have you, and I'll have it up high. When you do that, you'll allow some air to get in there. Okay, don't ask me how exactly, because I would think, hey, shouldn't that whole line be full of water all at one time? But it just somehow it'll work. They tell me. I've never done it because I thought I would have to run it up high and put an actual air gap up underneath the sink, up above the, inside the cabinet, and actually have the air gap up there, and then come down back from the air gap with a bigger pipe and then connect it to the garbage disposal. But they said, well, you could do that, but the problem with that is sometimes if your air gap or if your garbage disposal outlet gets clogged up a little bit, how sometimes when your dishwasher goes on, you might get some water coming out of your air gap, and if so, that means something's plugged up. Well, then you're never going to see that because it's going to be underneath your sink, and then it's going to be dripping underneath your sink. Do you see what I'm saying? And so you might say, well, the air gap is funny. the air gap, your drain from your dishwasher goes to the air gap, and the air gap pipe is actually smaller than that. What's the deal with that? And so let me see if I got the air gap right here, the old air gap. I was saving it because I thought maybe I might have to use it, you know, up underneath the sink. Let's just bring this in here for a minute. You can tell I don't want to start installing this faucet yet, dude. Okay. Okay. Here's your air gap, and okay. Your dishwasher, this would be installed on top of your countertop, okay? And you'd face it like that if it was over there, let's say, because your dishwasher is going to be off to the left, okay? So your dishwasher drain would go up to this smaller pipe. See how small that is? And then you'd have a bigger black pipe that goes on to here, and that size is the same size as your garbage disposal outlet. Okay? Let's see here. See that? This right here is the same size as this one. Okay? And that's when you use that big black pipe. Okay? But your garbage disposal drain, it's not that size. It's usually clear, whitish, and you'll generally hook it onto an air gap. Well, I'm pretty sure that the end of the dishwasher drain outlet pipe has 3 different sizes on the end of it, and you can cut the end of it off, and then it reduces down. Boom, boom, boom. And so you would cut it down for the outlet that this small, and then you attach it. Well, you wouldn't cut it off at all to put it over. Well, it wouldn't go on the air gap, but on the garbage disposal, if you're going to do the overhead loop like I'm telling you that I'm going to do, you've got to hook it onto that. So it's got to be this size, right? And the outlet on the dishwasher drain should be that size already before it boom, boom, boom and reduces down. So you don't cut the end off. We're just going to use that big one and stick it on there and stick a clamp on there. And when they come with the dishwasher, they're supposed to give me all the parts for the hookups and stuff. But when I took that old garbage disposal off, I kept the clamps, you know, for the big black pipe. And, you know, in case I need those clamps. I wasn't going to show you this part, but you know, if you're gonna hook up to an air gap, let's say, we'll just bring this was the old setup, okay, and that was the old garbage disposal right there. I've decided not to install that old garbage disposal. I mean, I could have installed that old garbage disposal. It looks like it's in pretty good shape. It's an InSinkErator garbage disposal. It's a 3/4 horsepower. It says 4-year warranty. And see, I don't know how old that is. It could be 4 years now. And so I ended up getting a new InSinkErator one right here. And that's a 3/4 horse. That's a 6-year warranty. And that's a 3/4 horse, and so I'm going to install that. But if you were going to install this on a countertop, your dishwasher drain goes up to that one with a small clamp, and then you get a pipe like this. See, this is a pretty stiff one, and then that would get hooked up to there, boom, like that, with one of these clamps. Okay. Boom, boom. And then that would zip down to your garbage disposal. And then you would attach that end, boom, like that, with the other clamp. And you would have this pipe. Well, see, I'm not going to end up doing that, right? Because I've decided not to install an air gap on top of the countertop. So when they installed this counter just last week, they went over with me, okay, what do you want to do here? So we came up, he suggested putting the faucet in the center of this opening rather than the center of this drain here, because then as you swivel it over, maybe it doesn't even come over this far. You see what I'm saying? And so he suggested the center. I mean, I could have had him put it off-centered slightly, a little bit. But maybe for looks overall, when this is installed, maybe it's better to have it centered, right? That was his suggestion, so that's what we took. And then he suggested the soap dispenser over this far. You don't have to put it that far. I could have put it over here. Well, see, initially I was thinking, okay, the faucet was going to go there, the soap dispenser was going to go about there, and the air gap was going to go about over in here somewhere, you know, and have the air gap off to the right. Now see, usually it doesn't really matter because your sink may be up against a wall like that, and you've got boom, 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 you've got everything over there. But because this is an open counter, maybe you don't want an air gap on there, okay? And so there's a way not to do it with an air gap, okay? And so moving on from there, let's not talk about that anymore. We're just gonna talk about the sink faucet, okay? So you got the one hole way or the 3-hole way, okay? And the interesting thing on this is, you see how these flexible lines, this gets hooked back up to the sink because that's the pull-out. Because this top handle pulls down, and so then this slides back and forth, you know, up through the end, and it actually comes with the weight. Here's the weight. Wow, that thing's heavy too. That's probably 1.5 pounds weight. And you put that on the pipe. See, wherever you decide, and then you can kind of slide it and reposition it, and that helps when you pull this down. It helps to lift it back up into place. So you got to place it in a strategic spot so that it doesn't hit any other pipes. And they've now made it so that you don't need any screws, any clamps, anything. There's a little groove thing that slips on the pipe, and then the heavy weight slips over that, and then that pops back up into a pipe. Let's see here. See, it's going to hook up to this pipe here, this piece, and it's just they leave that on there. I'll have to read the directions because you have to kind of line this up, and then it just kind of pops on there. As long as you hear it click on, it's on there. Oh, look at that. Here it says weight here. So they even give you a spot to put the weight where they suggest you to put the weight. Okay, so that's kind of that. And I noticed these lines here are pretty stiff. And I'm like, shoot, what if your water outlet, your water supplies are not exactly that long? What's the deal? What are you supposed to do? Well, here's the recommendation they give. Loop and secure if necessary. See how they loop the water line, and then you can put a zip tie on it or something. They might give you those in there, and then just run your pipe down there, you know, cold to cold, which is the blue is for cold, the red is for hot, and they just loop that. And I'm hoping I'm going to be able to loop it okay. Well, they say it's okay to do, and it feels kind of stiff. I'm hoping I don't kink the line or anything when I'm doing the loop. I'm going to have to try to make a big loop and then kind of pull it down. and get it lined up exactly. Or if it's slightly short, maybe you can kind of do this business, you know, and then hook it down there and push it up higher and then push it down. You know, I might do something like that. We'll just have to see. And see, that's pretty much all there is to it. They even give you a little thing like this, which is kind of cool. And that's to tighten up your nut when you stick it up there. That used to be really super hard to do, and you have to see, I got one of these quite a few years ago, see, like that, and you would pull it apart like that. You'd have to reach up there and then clamp it and then tighten your nut that way. And sometimes you didn't have enough room, and maybe it wouldn't fit in here. And see, you can flip this both directions. See, this one's hard to flip because I don't use this very often. So see, you can do it that way to loosen it or tighten it, and then you flip this over for the other way. See? Oh, man. It goes to show you how often I use this thing. And then you just use this and tighten it up. Well, nowadays, you don't have to do that. You just use this. Put it up in there, run your screwdriver in there, kind of at it as a crank, or, you know, down here. However, they give you different ways. And see, this is probably set up for different faucets and that kind of thing. But they give you that. So the only tool I'm going to need is a crescent wrench to tighten up the nut down on my water supply. You know, just that. Just to tighten that. That's all I'm going to have to do. And you know, they tell you 3/8" female connection adapter may be required, not supplied. You see there? In case your water line, maybe your water outlet, let's say, is set up with 1/2" threads, and you need to use something else, and then you'd have to use an adapter on the end of this or something to fit whatever you have down there. Okay? And so that's about it. So it shouldn't really be that difficult to install this whole thing. And we'll see, won't we? So coming up, we'll be installing this faucet.